Hi, my name is Stacy Humphreys, and I'm currently the Chief of Interpretation and Resource Management at the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace National Historical Park here in Hodgenville, Kentucky. At the Abraham Lincoln Birthplace, it's really unique. It's a special, one-of-a-kind place. I always tell people there is only one spot in the entire world that Abraham Lincoln was born, and it is right here in Hodgenville. And that in and of itself makes it so special to me. It's such an honor and a privilege to live here and to work here and walk in the footsteps of Abraham Lincoln. I marvel at it when I walk the fields out at Knob Creek and think, you know, he walked these same fields. It's very humbling to think about. And at the birthplace, we have the symbolic cabin with a memorial building, and it is unique because it is the first national monument in our country. It predates the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. by about 11 years, and not many visitors know that, and we get to surprise them with that fact. And just talking about the Lincoln's family, the way they lived here on the Kentucky frontier, you know, growing everything they needed, creating their home, clearing the land that they worked. It was a hard time. It was probably a very trying time. And these experiences marked Abraham Lincoln. He didn't have memories of the birthplace of Sinking Spring Farm because he was too small of a child, but he did have distinct memories of the Knob Creek farm. And we're fortunate that we get to care for that site as well. He said, my first recollection is of the Knob Creek place. And he talks about planting the pumpkin seeds in the fields that were then washed away. So he learned about hard work, and sometimes your hard work doesn't always pay off, kind of the hardships of frontier living at a very young age. We know that he experienced loss for the first time in his life. He had a baby brother that was born at Knob Creek while the family lived there. And we don't know how old the baby was. They just said he was an infant, so he could have been a few hours old up to a year. And they buried him in the nearby Redmond Family Cemetery. And this would have been the first big loss of Abraham's life. And I'm sure that marked him. You know, later in life, losing his mother, his birth mother, then his sister, and then of course sons that he would have. But, you know, I often wonder, you know, how did this mark him? How did he feel? I'm sure he felt great sadness at this. And also when the family left the Knob Creek farm, they couldn't take the baby's remains with him. And as far as we know, the family never was able to come back to visit the gravesite. So I'm sure that marked him. He also got his only year and a half of formal education at a blab school just down the road from the Knob Creek farm while they were living there. And we also know that the Lincoln family attended an anti-slavery Baptist church. Lincoln's family, his mother and his father, was anti-slavery in their leanings. So not only did he hear these teachings of anti-slavery beliefs at home, but he would have heard it from the pulpit on Sunday mornings as well. So we know that that seed was planted very, very early, and we can trace it right back here to the frontier of Kentucky. He said later in life, I am naturally anti-slavery. I cannot remember a time when I did not so think and feel. And that started right here in Kentucky. That's something very special. One of the famous stories that we talk about and share with visitors out at Knob Creek is the story that was related by Austin Gollaher, who was a friend of Abraham Lincoln. And the Gollahers lived right across the knob or the hill from the Lincolns. And according to Austin, one day him and young Abraham were playing by Knob Creek. Abraham, you know, was a very young boy, and he was crossing on a log and he toppled into the creek and almost drowned. And according to Austin, it was good that he was there because he pulled Abraham out almost dead, he said, and kind of revived him or helped to revive him, and thankfully saved his life. And, you know, often wonder what our history may have been like and how different American history would be if it hadn't been for Austin Gollaher there standing by Knob Creek that day. What Abraham Lincoln means to me is the complexity of a human being, that he realized, you know, oftentimes we have a tendency to deify the man. You know, we build a temple in his honor here in Kentucky for the first national monument. We seat the marble man in the marble chair in Washington, D.C. in his national monument. But he was a human, and he struggled with things that all of us struggle with. He had, you know, he was a little boy. He was a baby when he was born. I always tell people jokingly, you know, he did not emerge from the womb 6'4" with a stovepipe hat and a beard saying the Gettysburg Address. He was a child. He did little boy things. He was human. He felt pain. He felt sadness. He struggled with loss and depression. You know, I often wonder, you know, what Lincoln might have felt if he'd gone through what we had been going through the last few years, how he would have handled it. But I also really like the fact of Lincoln, and I wish I was more like this, that he could take different people from different backgrounds and different points of view and bring them together to try to form a cohesive group. And he did this with his cabinet during the American Civil War. He did this with other groups of people, trying to use, you know, rather simple language. Lincoln's speeches stand out as some of the greatest speeches that we have in American history, but yet he spoke for the common man. And he tried to take these complex ideas and these complex ideology, but make it relatable to every person. And a lot of people, I feel a personal connection with Lincoln, not only at the time that he lived, but also feel a connection with him now through his words and the ideas that he upheld, the ideas of freedom, equality, you know, justice, trying to keep the country together through one of the most trying times in American history. He's a very admirable man and, you know, a wonderful leader. He wasn't perfect, and I think he would be the first person to say he wasn't perfect, even though we want to try to, set him up on that pedestal to perfect him. He was a human, and he recognized his humanity. And I think his humbleness is one of his greatest attributes. Well, working at the park, we also recognize we have our partners and other sites here in Hodgenville. So we try to send visitors down here to the Lincoln Museum on a very regular basis. The museum is absolutely wonderful. I always tell visitors, you know, you can get the first 7 years of Abraham Lincoln's life at our park, but here at the museum, because of their exhibits and of their diorama, you can basically get his entire life here in Hodgenville and see different scenes from his life and the effects of different aspects and trials and things that he went through. So I think it's a very special place. It's a wonderful place to have here in Hodgenville. I always enjoy sending people not only to the museum to see the artifacts here and the old building that it's in, because it used to be an old dry goods store, but to also see the statues that are out in front of the museum on the city square. We have the adult statue of Abraham Lincoln that was placed on the square in 1909 on the 100th anniversary of his birth. And then Boy Lincoln that was placed in 2009 on the bicentennial of his birth. So it's a really wonderful town. It's a small town. It's got a small town feel, and I absolutely love that. A lot of people know a lot of people and are connected to the museum and the park, and I just really enjoy being part of that.